Welcome to my very low budget hotel room and what is probably the most controversial video that I have made in quite some time. In today's episode, I plan to lay out exactly what you need to do to start an electrical business. That's everything from what you need to be charging to how to find work, what insurances and registrations and things you need. Now, the reason why I say it's controversial is because a lot of people believe that this sort of information should be gatekept for those that know, or put behind some kind of paywall to be sold to you. It's really not that complicated, and that's what I try to make clear in today's video. I hope it's useful. Disclaimer, I don't claim to be an expert and I'm not qualified to give financial advice or anything like that. This is just my experiences from starting a couple of my own businesses relayed to you in the manner that I would if you were a friend down the pub. You can do it. Enjoy. Oh, and if you appreciate this video, engaging with it and also subscribing really helps us out. Enjoy. Within the course of this video, I'm going to try and explain everything that you need to know to start a trades business. Please don't go out there and pay for courses, pay for business coaches, all of that type of thing until you've seen through this video. Knowledge. I would like to lay out for you today 10 steps on getting started as a self-employed tradesman, and I would like to provide it to you for completely free. So we're going to dive into 10 steps, but before we do that, let's get some absolute rubbish out the way. Do you need a business qualification? No, you absolutely do not. The most important quality you can have is good people skills, okay? Pride in your work, build a good reputation, build good relationships. What about you have some kind of learning difficulty? Let's say you're dyslexic. Can't send emails, I can't do invoices and quotes, I have spelling mistakes on them. Rubbish. Let me tell you something, okay? I don't know why, but a very high proportion of some of the best sparks and tradesmen I have met and worked with are dyslexic. Some of them, sadly, were even told in school that they were stupid. Absolutely ridiculous. Use technology, use AI. You've got ChatGPT, all these things are available to us for completely free now. Get your friend to spell check your emails if you're really that worried. See it that you've got a different brain that's going to bring different things to the table rather than something that's going to hold you back. Oh, well, when you start a business, it's just business. It's nothing personal. That is absolute rubbish. I absolutely take my business personally. If I get a bad review on Google, unfortunately we haven't got any yet, but if I was to read a bad review about our work, or we get an email or a complaint or something, which obviously happens from time to time, you know, like maybe a misunderstanding or whatever, I want to address that immediately. I treat all of my customers as individuals. I very much care about my workmanship, about my reputation. That means then as well that I'm not just taking on any subcontractors, any employees when we're working. If someone says to you business isn't personal, then yeah, go work in a bank or sell mortgages or something. Treat someone's house as if it was your own, or even better, treat it as if you're working for your mother-in-law. Step 1, set your objective. What do you actually want out of this? Why are you starting your business? Fair enough, if you've been made redundant, you can't find a job and this is your only option, great. But let's say you're employed. What is it that you want? More time with your family? Do you want a better income, more financial freedom? Or are you dreaming big? You're going to build an electrical empire. Whatever it is, don't just shoot in the dark. And be honest with yourself, define it, write it out if you have to, and visualize it. Because if you don't know where you're going, how are you ever going to get there? So set your sights, be realistic, and start mapping out how you're going to make it happen. We're going to introduce you to something called the processionary caterpillar. Might be wondering what have these guys got to do with business, but hold on, bear with me. Okay, these guys have an interesting habit. As they crawl, they leave a little trail of silk from the spinneret near their butt, I think. Now here's the twist, when another caterpillar encounters this trail, it starts following it instinctively. So this behaviour causes them all to line up, nose to tail, nose to tail, nose to tail, like a little freight train. It can be cool to watch these things go, because they can go for miles across forests and deserts, but here's where things get strange. If you place these little caterpillars in a circle, or in a bucket, they're just going to keep going round and round and round and round, endlessly chasing the tail in front of them. They'll keep doing this until they die or starve to death. How does that relate to us? Being kinetic, doing something, doesn't mean you're being productive. Don't mistake activity for achievement. To make progress, you need to have a clear goal and a solid plan of how you're going to get there. And that's as well what I'm hoping that some of the steps in this video are going to help you to do. They're going to line up some practical steps on where to set your direction. Make sure that you're not just moving, but that you're actually moving forward. Step 2, get qualified. I recently met a gardener, okay, who wanted to upskill and wanted to become an electrician. Fantastic ambition, well done mate. He found a course online promising him to get self-employed in just 5 weeks. My first reaction, well, as an electrician, it's not hard to feel a bit frustrated when you feel like your trade is being undervalued. But then I stopped and thought, This guy is not the problem, okay? This guy is a victim of the course sharks. That's right, sharks. These are providers who will sell you a dream but leave people unprepared with just enough knowledge to scrape through an inspection, but with no real understanding of the systems or the practical skills needed to work safely and competently. Imagine if I told you, Mr. Gardener, that I could learn landscaping in 5 weeks. Not only will I do that, I will then go and work for your elderly relatives and charge them full price, competing with you, competing with other landscapers that are experienced in the area. His response is obviously going to be, no, it takes years to learn landscaping. You don't know what you don't know. That's the point. You do not know what you do not know. Everything looks easy, doesn't it? Until it isn't. Until you're knee deep in a fault find at 3 AM fixing someone else's work, or maybe even if you're not qualified and not competent enough, your own work. Don't mistake qualification for competence. That goes both ways. If you want to join the electrical trade, you should feel absolutely welcome. It's not an exclusive club, but there are ways to do it. So sometimes a shortcut like a short course can seem tempting, but the reality is, what is a few years training compared to a whole career? The only approved route into the industry now is an MBQ level 3, an AM2, and a testing and inspection qualification. That's your minimum. But with those qualifications under your belt, you're going to earn the respect of the industry and build your own confidence. That solid foundation is what's going to set you up for success. Not just in passing inspections, but in handling real world challenges. Public service announcement, no, Part P is not a respected qualification. I actually did it out of curiosity. I was planning on making a video out of it. So I did that course before doing this video, and all I can tell you is you learn like the slitheriest of slithers of what it actually means to be an electrician. My great aunt could do it, and she's dead. So let's presume right now that you've got your qualifications, you're employed in the industry already. Let's say you're coming to the end of your apprenticeship, that kind of thing, but you're wanting to go it alone. I quit. I've just quit my job. I have found myself in this exact situation, but there are some things you're going to make sure that you have before you go alone, okay? Make sure that your financial situation is ready to take that risk, because ultimately being an entrepreneur is a risk. Whilst you have the safety net of a salary, or in some of your cases a redundancy payment, it's going to be much easier. Don't cut down business overheads necessarily at first, but you want to cut down your personal overheads. I hate to sound like a boomer talking about not having your avocado toast, but guys, is it necessary? Every penny that you save and every good habit that you form is going to help you massively later on when you're going to have less income and less income security. Make sure you have at least 6 months worth of your money saved before going it alone, because there's a good chance that you might have quiet patches while starting out. It's going to be completely normal, and we're going to touch on that a bit later on. Tools. Right, you're going to need tools. Even if you get access to your company tools, start collecting your own hand tools and your own power tools now. Spread the expense of setting up over a period of time rather than doing it all in one big fat purchase. I started building my own private toolkit, one tool at a time, until I had everything I needed before going it alone. Maybe don't start with buying specialist tools until you have specialist jobs that actually need them. I've tried to make a list of what I think are essential tools to start a business, and they're in the description below. I've also managed to secure a discount for everyone that is watching this video over at Tool Monster. They're a great company that stock everything you need and will ship all over Europe. If you want to buy the tools there, you can. You'll get 5% off with the code ØY62. I'll also get 5% of the sale, so that's a nice little kickback, innit? Okay, do you need a van? There's no straightforward answer to this, but the answer really is, can you afford it? If you can afford it, a van is going to make you look a lot more professional, and it's going to boost your customer image. It's going to increase your chances of being hired and maybe even of being recommended. If you're on your own, right, if you're a single lad like I was when I started my business, if you've got 2 cars, maybe you could consider selling one and investing in a reliable second-hand van. It's a great way to get started, and it doesn't have to be anything really shiny and fancy. When I went self-employed the first time, I didn't have the money for the van. This was back when I was like 20. I didn't want to get into debt, so I converted a little Fiat Pinto and made it work until I could afford something better. I saved up money in the business, and then eventually I had enough to buy myself a little blue caddy, which I loved. When I started ØY Electrical, which is my current business, I've decided I want to start a business. I've got no business qualifications. I've got no real experience in starting a proper business. I only had a camper van. This is my lovely little camper van. It's time to destroy it. It was heartbreaking, and in hindsight, I kind of wish I just sold it as a camper van, but anyway, that's a whole other story. Up until quite recently, if I'm being honest, I didn't own a car. I just used my van for everything to save money. Remember, one of the biggest expenses in a business is your own ego, so you're going to have to find that fine balance between looking professional and showing off. Sign writing your van is another fantastic way to advertise your business, but keep in mind it's also going to advertise to tool thieves what you have on your van, so weigh up the pros and cons carefully. I'm just about to sign write ours, but given the nature of our main source of advertising, YouTube and Instagram, it's not really so necessary, and also people are quite aware of what we often carry on board. So for me, it's probably going to be quite minimalist, but I have found in past companies when we've got our services written on the side of the van, people have come and approached and asked for work, which we've successfully won. So it's an investment that's definitely worth checking out. In short, getting a van is definitely going to be helpful when you're starting out a business, but it is not a deal breaker if you can't afford one right away. Work with what you have and upgrade as the business grows. Don't let your ego get in the way. Step 4, create the company. How do you actually create a company? Well, first of all, you're going to need a name. So I'm not going to go into that. Find a catchy business name, something that works with you, and a logo. Hire a graphic designer, do it yourself. First thing you're going to need to know when creating a company is the legal structure. So let's talk about the two most common options, okay? We have sole trader and we have limited companies. A sole trader is definitely going to be the simplest setup. You are the only owner, you're fully in charge and you're responsible for everything. But the big thing to know here is that you have unlimited liability, meaning that if the business runs into debt, your personal assets like your car, your house, all of that sort of stuff can be at risk. But on the plus side, it's super easy and very cheap to set up. You get to keep all the profits, which are taxed as your own personal income. On the other hand, limited companies, which are a lot more formal. So these businesses are a separate legal entity. This is what I have set up. So we are ØY Electrical Limited. It means that your personal assets are protected by something called limited liability. So essentially, you're only responsible for what you have invested into the company. So it's a lot more of an attractive setup for investors. It's definitely going to offer better funding opportunities, but it's definitely going to come as well with added complexity, stricter legal rules, higher setup costs, and you're going to pay corporation tax on profits, with shareholders paying tax on any dividends that you take out of the business. If you want simplicity and independence, go for a sole trader. But if you need protection and you plan to grow as a business, a limited company might be the best way to go. For me as an electrician, it seems a no-brainer to be limited. It's less risk, and certain companies commercially won't touch you if you're not a VAT registered and limited company. Ooh, VAT! VAT, value added tax. In the UK, a business must register for VAT if its taxable turnover exceeds the VAT threshold registration, which is currently £85,000 in a 12-month rolling period. Remember, that's turnover, that's not profit, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to hit turnover of those types of figures. Expectation of exceeding the threshold is another reason you have to apply. If you expect your turnover to exceed 85,000 in the next 30 days, you must register immediately. Failure to register on time will lead you to penalties and a requirement to pay VAT retrospectively, which is not going to be fun because you wouldn't have charged that to your customers. So that's coming straight out of your money, straight out of your profit. So for me, it made sense, rather than constantly keep an eye on my turnover, constantly be worried about that, I went for this option, which is voluntary VAT registration. Even if your turnover is below the threshold, you can voluntarily register for VAT. Because when you start a business, you're going to have loads more business expenses. All of your tools, equipment, van, all of that VAT you can claim back. When you go and approach a company, you're going to have to put VAT on your quotes and on your invoice. In the commercial world, that's definitely going to help you seem a little bit more established. So for me, personally, going VAT registered is one of the best things I've ever done. I was really worried about it. I've read so much online negative about it, about how it's going to be awful and no one's ever going to hire me because I'm going to be 20% more expensive. Businesses don't care. They can claim it back, or even they can do something now called 0% reverse charge. Domestic clients, to be honest, I'm surprised how much they don't mind because a lot of my competitors are charging VAT anyways. On solar and battery, there's a VAT relief at the minute, so you don't have to charge them VAT. So for me, because I'm paying a lot of VAT, but I'm not getting paid VAT because a lot of my work is VAT free, I see it as a little savings account which pays me back every 3 months. I think VAT registration is great. But you have to remember that VAT registration brings obligations, like charging VAT, keeping detailed records, and submitting VAT returns. So it's very crucial to weigh carefully the benefits and responsibilities. My biggest advice from all of this is just get an accountant. From day one, save up and get an accountant. They're going to save you more money than what they cost, and they're going to reduce so much hassle, stress and anxiety out of your life. I got a good accountant from day one. They gave me all the advice I needed. They talked me through everything. And to be honest, I just leave them to it because I trust them. Find a good chartered accountant It's going to save you money. Step 5, getting insured and registered. What registrations do you need? What insurances do you need? Let me start by saying, within a business, accidents happen. Think about all of the clumsy mistakes you've made in the process of your whole working career, okay? When you go self-employed, all of those things are on you. If you accidentally cut through a pipe, if you accidentally blow something up, it's your fault. So you're going to need insurance, which we'll touch on how much you need later, but it's all going to tie in together. To carry out electrical work within homes in the UK, you need to notify building control. There are certain work which is considered notifiable. If you're an electrician that's qualified, you already know which ones of those are notifiable and which ones are not. This can be time consuming and expensive, not just for you, but also for the client. So most of the time we use a body or something called a competent person scheme, or CPS for short. So the most common CPSs are NAPIT and NICEIC. I would say they're the most established, most well known. I'm not going to talk about my preferences on either. I think they both have their advantages and their disadvantages. So these CPSs review our business and workmanship every year, or at least they're supposed to. We are then able to self-notify our work through their portals. So you have to pay to get onto these schemes, but once you're on them, a notification costs about £3 per notification rather than about £200 per notification. It also means that you don't have to have building control come out to site to check your first fix, check your second fix, all of that sort of thing. So it works out much cheaper and simpler in the long run. So in short, if you're going to be a serious business doing domestic work, probably best that you just join. But to join, you're going to need insurance. So you're going to need a minimum of £2 million public liability and £250,000 of professional indemnity. If you're going to employ people or use subcontractors, you want to make sure that your subbies have their own insurance, and you're also going to need employer's liability insurance. Whatever you do, get good insurance and do not start working without it. A lot of them have weird clauses like, oh, if you read the small print, you're only insured up to 1.2 meters, or a lot of them don't cover solar and that kind of thing. So make sure you check the small print. I have made a deal with a company that I use, which I find very good, called Kingsbridge Insurance. For everyone that is watching this video, they're fantastic. They're a great company to deal with, and you're going to get 10% off if you use the code in my description. I find them priced fairly, they give good value, and have specific insurance packages for tradies and solar installers. To join a CPS, they're going to need to have an on-site inspection or an assessment for your work. And you're also going to have systems in place in the office for risk assessments, for complaints procedures, for data management, certification, a health and safety policy, amongst some other easy to fix admin related tasks. It sounds overwhelming, it sounds scary, but it's really not. You're obviously going to need to be fully qualified, as stated earlier as well. Don't buy into the hype as well that these things are really scary assessments and you're going to fail them and pay loads of money and they're going to criticize your work. When you join these bodies, it's a doddle. They're going to talk you through what is needed, and don't panic. They're going to prepare you for your assessment beforehand by sending out info packs. And on the day, I've genuinely found that most of the assessors are pretty fair and very reasonable. They just want to see that you are trying your best to follow the regs and to do a good job. And if you don't like exams and all that kind of thing, remember, these CPS bodies run on our money. So it's in their interest to pass you. You are their customer, not the other way around. You're paying money to join and they want your money. So they're definitely going to help coach you through the process if that is what's needed. So you've done it, you sly dog. You have a legal, insured and registered business. So now all you need is a little bit of work to get started. Let's ask the guys what they did about that.
I am an electrician, have been for 12 years now, and done it all, commercial, industrial and domestic. And about a year ago I set up contracting for myself. So I was fortunate enough where I did have a bit of a presence on social media already, which helped massively. But even if I didn't have that presence already, I would start on that straight away. Social media is very powerful. Even at this point, it's probably where 75% of my work comes from.
The most important thing that helped me when I started out, before my name got out there properly, was subcontracting. You build relationships with businesses locally, you get a good reputation with them, and then I'd always try and book a couple of weeks ahead with subcontracting for other people. And then when I'd get a personal job come in, I'd fill the gaps in my diary with those. However, very soon I found that actually I was starting to fill my diary with my own personal work, and then the other way around, fill the little gaps with subcontracting, until eventually I wasn't needing to subcontract anymore. But again, the only reason why a lot of people say you should never subcontract, never work for someone else, ego. Take whatever small jobs you can get. I don't care if it's swapping light fittings or swapping sockets. Take those jobs, work for them as if you're working in your mother-in-law's house. Be extra clean, extra tidy, have respect, courtesy, be friendly, be honest, be fair. Just remember, you are a stranger with a stigma attached to you. It's not fair, but tradesmen do have a stigma, and you're going to be going into homes with men and women alone.
In my first sort of 6 months, I spent half my time just subcontracting to friends and other people, other businesses, to fill the time between my own projects. And even that comes with a lot of freedom. You can still learn from people and stuff like that, and just keeping the diary full, knowing that you can then block out time for your own projects and design and quote your own projects. Because if you're just waiting for that next job to come in, it could be weeks, and it has been weeks for me at times, but I've managed to keep busy with other people, which means you don't need to just throw in the towel and, go back to employment. You can sort of keep going, keep building.
I promise you, if you're nice, do a good job, work hard, you'll start getting your name out there as a decent tradesman in no time at all, because there genuinely is a massive shortage of decent trades. There's also apps and different things you can use. I'm not going to mention any of them personally, but you might know of some already that might just help you get started getting leads, but I wouldn't rely on those. Really try and rely on the word of mouth, doing a good enough job that someone can't help but recommend you to their friends. Step 7. What should you charge? Now, I conducted a little survey on my Instagram. It was very interesting. I asked people in the UK, what do you charge? Now, personally, I don't like to work off of day rates because I tend to price jobs. I think it's easier for the customer, it's less risk for them, slightly more risk for you, but also slightly more chance that you might be able to make a little bit more profit on a job. People don't always like to know what you're actually making out of it, as weird as that sounds. So we had results everywhere from £250 a day up to £800 a day. And then, of course, you've got the outlier of the group, Artisan Electrics. So you can see here, that's the spread. What surprised me, I thought that most electricians in my area were charging between £300 and £400. A lot of them were charging in my area, which is between London and Devon, effectively. A lot of people were charging upwards of £400 a day for normal domestic work. Do not undervalue yourself. Ask your mates what they're actually charging. If they'll tell you honestly, then it's worth checking. You've got painters and decorators and tilers making £200, £300, £400 a day. Carpet fitters making more than that sometimes. We've got a stressful and skilled job that has tons of overhead and time off to take exams, all this kind of thing. I don't need to tell you about it. So value yourself properly. Just because you're charging £200, £300, £400 a day, you're not coming home with £400 a day. Tradify have actually got a free charge out calculator. I don't even think you need to sign up to get access to it, but it will basically lay out all of your overheads and things, and then what you should charge if you want to come home with that amount of money that you need to come home with. Very cool. They've got a lot of free business tools, but we'll touch on that more later. Work management. I absolutely recommend that keeping on top of your accounting, you use something like Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, whatever. Your accountant is going to be able to log into all of this stuff remotely, get all the receipts, data, transactions, and everything they need to do with tax and books and things. But do you also need software for managing calendar, invoices, estimates, inquiries, all that kind of thing? No. It really depends on you. You can absolutely run a business on Microsoft Office. Some of the biggest companies in the world and some of the best companies do. You can use Excel, you can use Word, you can use Google Sheets, all that kind of stuff for free. However, that being said, when I get busy, I forget to send out invoices, I forget to send out quotes, I lose track of inquiries, who's got in touch with them, especially when you've got multiple people in the company. So I like to run things on software that is going to take care of chunks of admin tasks for me. Software, for me, saves hours each week. And if you're in a position to have it and you can afford it, I would say it's definitely worth trying, especially from the beginning as you build it, so that as it grows, you've already got infrastructure in place to manage your work, manage your workflow. I have secured a special offer with Tradify. Tradify is the software that I have been using. Like I say, you don't have to have it. Don't think if you can't afford it that you need it. It's going to handle everything from your inquiries right through to your quotes and invoicing, and it'll even host a website for you. So if you use my code, you're going to be able to try it for completely free. You don't need to put any credit card details in, anything like that. So you get on with it. Comment below. Step 9, marketing. You've got everything set up. You've got work. You're starting it going. There's going to be quiet patches. So I think a lot of people think if you've got a quieter patch, you're a failure. Or if you have to do a little bit of subcontracting to fill gaps in your space. Or if you have to do a little bit of subcontracting to fill gaps in your schedule, people think, oh no, that's it, my business has failed, they've done everything wrong. But it's quite encouraging to hear someone like you who, to be honest, Mike, if you haven't come across Mike, Residual Current. He's a big fish in the industry and he's going to be making big waves. I'm telling you, Balfour Beatty are going to need to move aside. So I've got absolutely every faith in Mike. Step 10, have fun, okay? The whole point of this thing is to buy back your life. Work to live, do not live to work. Forget about this whole toxic grind culture. Burnout is core. Work hard, but remember to enjoy yourself. I don't think anyone has ever laid down on their deathbed just wishing they'd spent a little bit more time at work or just a little bit less time with their family and worked a little bit harder. Don't be oversold and don't be greedy. Find that balance between valuing your time, working hard, but also being content. Take care of yourself and those around you before your business. If you are a burnt out wreck, your business is going to fail very quickly after that. The only thing worse than failing is going to be living with the regret of never trying. Told you it was going to be too easy.